couple of other questions about Benson. When you first started the program, were there any other premises ever discussed other than his starting out as a butler and?
Not that I know of. One I always had in my mind was that he should be a kind of he should be a troubleshooter for the governor. He should go in and turn people away from something nefarious that they were considering. Or if he caught some guy who was stealing money or, oh, pardon me, please, if he found somebody who was embezzling money or something like that, and or go undercover or something, I always thought he should be a troubleshooter. That way he would get to shoot down stereotypes and do the kind of thing that I thought Benson was good at, which was calling a spade, if you will.
But that didn't resonate with anyone?
No, it didn't happen.
Didn't take off. Now, at some point, I think early on in Benson, there was a contract dispute. You had signed a contract for 7 years, and then you didn't show up for work. What was that about?
I couldn't get over the notion that I was being underpaid, even though I was making lots of money. I just didn't want to have the feeling that I was making a significantly less amount than any comparable white actor. And since that always figured in what one was doing, it was inescapable. You had to, the only way you could the only way I could deal with that was actually try to get my salary up. I knew I was being underpaid. I mean, if I give you the figures, you'd know it too. But I didn't expect that I would make as much as could be made if I had been a white actor. The reason I didn't expect it was because I thought it would be difficult to prove that I wasn't making it. And I just knew that that was the way it was. Hey, you want the job or don't you? Forget about it. You're making money. Get out of here. Leave me alone. But I was being paid so little under that contract that I said, well, can we do anything about it? And they said, I had 2 lawyers at the time, and they said, well, let us handle it. So indeed, we decided to stay out, and that was kind of scary because I had never bucked anybody like that. After all, I was a lowly actor and should have been glad to get any amount of money. But as they say, you give them a little freedom and boy, they're all over you, right? So I did stay out, and my lawyers told me, said, go to Europe, forget about it, don't come over here, don't talk to us, just let us handle it. So they handled it, and we got more money. And so that by the end of the 7-year run, I was making a considerable amount of money.
Who were the lawyers who were representing you?
My memory is gone. I may think of it.
Okay. And, okay, so you came back, and with the money that you came back at, did you feel that you were now?
Well, I felt that I could go on.
Were there any other significant black stars or African American stars at that time, Robert, when you were
sure.
leading Benson? Who were, okay.
Well, there was Sherman Hemsley, there was Isabel Sanford, there was, of course, Red, and I think there was Flip Wilson. There were a few.
And were you friends with one another?
Well, there was no coterie, if you mean. No.
Informal
I
or
knew I
otherwise?
had known Sherman when I worked with him in Pearlie. We had played together twice in Pearlie.
And did you have any history with any of the other actors that you've mentioned?
Very little, no.
Okay. Were you active politically at any point during this time?
No, I was charity-wise. I did a number of things. One was I was spokesman for sickle cell anemia for a year or two. I was on the board of AMFA. I think I raised some money for APLA. But politically, I didn't do much. What I always figured was I can be very political in the types of roles I play and in the way I play them. There were times on Benson that I could have had a lot more fun. I mean, I really could have gotten down dirty. But I decided that I wouldn't because I knew that I would enter those areas that form stereotypes. And so I said, I won't do that because I just don't like it. And I'm afraid of the consequences. Afraid may be the wrong word. I wasn't afraid, I was apprehensive about what would be done with the image once I, in other words, I could have said things a certain way and gotten more fun out of it because I would have been doing something that every man does. But I wanted to keep Benson at a certain level. Again, I said I didn't want to be a buffoon. I wanted to make people laugh, but I did not want them to laugh at Benson. I wanted them to laugh with Benson.
Now, the way you described that, you had that discussion with yourself. Was that ever a discussion you had openly with either the writers on the show or with network executives?
No. One couldn't have that conversation with network executives because it means absolutely nothing to them. What my considerations might have been were just totally unfathomable to them. They would have looked at me, mouth agape, and said, oh, well, I've got to go to a meeting now. And later on, they would have said, this guy's nuts, isn't he? It just wouldn't mean anything to them. What's the difference? What are you talking about? If it's funnier, do it. But I didn't have that conversation. Because if I had had that conversation, then I would have opened myself up to the charge that I wasn't doing what I could. And one of the things I had, when we talked before, one of the things that I had said, when I came to Benson, when I came to that character, I had arrived at a place where I had the strength, the courage to do only that which was funny to me. I didn't care about anybody else's idea. Now that may sound arrogant, frequently I think that sounds arrogant to say, but as a black actor, I knew that I was up against a long history of buffoonery. It wasn't that the people weren't funny, it was that they were being laughed at rather than with, and I never liked being laughed at. I just couldn't take it. So I didn't want to enter that area at all. But when I came to Benson, if I'd come to Benson 10 years earlier, you would have seen all of the excesses in the character, because that's all I knew about acting, what I'd seen other black actors do. Out of the necessity of those times, the 30s, 40s, 50s in films, that's all one ever saw. It wasn't necessarily their fault, or it didn't mean that they weren't intelligent people. It was that the people who were hiring them needed them to act in this manner, because we cannot be seen, we cannot entertain the thought. I've gotten myself into a quagmire here. Black people must only entertain us. We can't give thought to what they think. We can't have them playing in such a way that we have to pay attention to what they're doing. So we have to give them silly stuff. You know, all we want is comic relief. That's all we want. Forget about the rest of it. And I think that in the long march of black Americans, or African Americans, actors particularly, toward some kind of independence, I thought that I was doing that march, and I had come to a place where I'm only going to do what I think is funny. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do all that other stuff that you may want me to do. I'm only going to do what I think is funny. And I think I was successful in that, and I think other people agreed with me, and I think it relieved them from having to look at a character and say, Jesus, they've only come this far after all we've done for them, you know.
Do you remember when that process became conscious to you?
Fortunately for me, it became conscious to me from the moment I saw the sides to Benson. What are you doing, Benson? What does it look like I'm doing? Good, and it's eggs. Now, and on occasion, somebody told me, they said, now make sure that they know you're just kidding. Now, my auditioners had been laughing hysterically at everything that I had done. I took that person who told me to do it that way, and I took their advice and put it into what I was doing. Nothing. I got nothing out of it, because I was trying to be ingratiating rather than being simply, here it is, take it or leave it. What does it look like I'm doing? Good, and it's eggs. Well, Benson, you know I can't have salt. Oh, you can't have salt? I thought it was sugar you couldn't have. Dry, bam. This is it. I don't like you people at all.
When you finally finished Benson, it was 1986.
Mm-hmm.
Why did it end?
I'm not sure. Benson was never a spectacular performer like Cosby or many other shows. Benson was always the quiet hit. It was seen by many people as a one-trick pony. The white guy's smarter than all the the black guy is smarter than all the white guys. We know what that is. And that's all it's about. To me, it was never about that. It was simply about an African American being able to stand on his own 2 feet and trade jabs, blows, or whatever it was with other people and still stand on his own 2 feet and not needing any help from anybody. If I want to be lieutenant governor, I'll go to night school, take law. I can do it. It's possible. This is America, and anything is possible. And it should be possible for me. And that's the way I took it. But as I said before, we have such a crazy society. People have to put you somewhere. He's doing something, I don't know what it is, and he's a militant. No, there was nothing militant about it. I was just my own. Benson was his own man. He didn't take any guff. I mean, he would really look at you funny if you thought that he was going to do something out of deference to you simply because of the color of your skin. He said, I don't play that.
Now, when it ended, you went on to produce as well as to act. You executive produced a television movie, The Kid with the 200 IQ.
Mm-hmm. It was with little, the kid was on Different Strokes.
Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman, yeah.
And that was in actually, I guess that was while you were in.
Yeah, that was 1984 or something.
While you were still doing Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you have a plan? I mean, were you planning to go on to become a producer, or what was going to be your next move?
No, it just came out of having a little cachet as Benson, that's all.
Now, you also played the title role in the Showtime production Pearly during that time for television. And how did that happen?
That was because I had done Pearly, the stage show.
Now, there are a couple of other appearances that you made. You starred and produced and directed an ABC special, John Grin's Christmas.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
That was one of those perks that ABC gave me because I was one of their shows, and it was a Christmas show. And it was, John Grin was a kind of Scrooge character. And I sort of wrote and directed and starred in that. I had my son in there with me, Kevin, and I had my little daughter at the time, Melissa. She played one of the children, and also my sister-in-law, Candy Brown Houston.
So that was a family affair.
Yeah.
Now, there were a couple of other things that you produced, or appearances that you made. The Star Maker in 1980, the Donna Summer special in 1980,
Mm-hmm.
Texaco Star Theater in 82, Passion and Memory in 86, We the People 200, the Constitutional Gala. Was there anything about any of those that you think was memorable, or?
Well, I was tickled to death to play with Donna Summer. Donna Summer I had known in Europe when we were in Vienna doing Porgy and Bess. And she remembered me from Vienna, because this was in '65. And so when she did her special, and I had also at the time become Benson, so she wanted me in the show. And she told me at that time, said, the reason I wanted you on the show was because you had been nice to me in Vienna when she was just a, struggling kid.
Up until that point, throughout that period of time, were there any people that you took under your wing that we would know, or any stories?
No, not really. one thing that did happen, I think when we were doing Kid with 200 IQ or something like that with Coleman, Gary Coleman. Oh no, it was the Kid from Left Field we were doing down in Pomona. And one of the people in the chorus, one of the people in the pool of extras was Whoopi Goldberg before Whoopi Goldberg. And she happened to say to me later on that I had said something encouraging to her at the time she was in that. And she mentioned it to me.
Now, you went on to do another series. In 1989, you starred in and co-executive produced The Robert Guillaume Show. How did that come about, and what was its premise?
I don't know. I guess I got feverish with something or other. I thought that something I'd never seen was a show, a half-hour show that had both black and white people in it, because that's the way things really are. We don't make these sharp divisions, even though we live in our own little enclave. America is much more, America works because people are able to work together. And I had never seen a show in which black people and white people work together as a family. When I know this happens, I mean, I know many people, regardless of what the mores, what attitudes exist about, let us say, adoption. Black people don't want you to adopt. White people don't want you to adopt. It's just totally nuts. When these kids out there, they need just a family. But there are things that have to be considered. And so I wanted to have a show in which you talk about all this, in which you have this, and you see people struggling with notions and ideas and prejudices they have, one to the other. And so I played a psychiatrist who fell in love with his, what would you call it? She would say.
An assistant? Or
An assistant. And she happened to be white. And I interviewed all these people, and she came to work for me, and she and I fell in love. Well, I wanted, because she had 2 children, and I had 2 children. And I wanted to bring that together. But I was a little naive once again in what could be tolerated. And it didn't work for a number of reasons.
now, did the shows, what was the network's position about that relationship?
Oh, the network said, we've got to do this. This is 19 so-and-so and so-and-so. Yes, let's get on this. And I began to get wind that they really didn't want to do it because it made people uncomfortable. So I told them many times, I said, why don't we back out of this and go another way? Oh no, we've got to do this. This is 1986, let's do it. And of course we did it, and somebody folded.
Now, did it air in order? Did the 13 episodes air in order?
No, we had been cautioned to let the romance proceed gradually. And so that by the 8th episode was the first time we were going to kiss. I mean, you know, we had to make those kinds of considerations. One actress came in, I've forgotten her name, she's well known. She came in and she said, why the hell are you doing this gradually? They're 2 people in love, let's go, let's get on with it. I've forgotten what her name is. but she Susan Anspach, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She came in to audition for that part. I believe it was her. It may not have been, but I think it wasn't, and I'm sorry if it isn't. But it was someone of that stature who said, "What are you pussyfooting around with this for? Let's do it." You know. But we followed the advice of the network when we did them in order. Well, when they showed the shows, they showed them out of order. So that by the second show, we were kissing, and the romance hadn't had time to build or anything. So it was hard for me not to suspect that that was deliberate.
What was the audience reaction to that show?
Yeah,
Okay, let's wait. We'll pick